If you're new to jiu-jitsu, you may find that you're really liking side control because it's comfortable and it feels safe until you go with an upper rank, a purple, a brown, a black belt. Well, I can't promise that I can help you beat them, but I can help get you on your way. So if you're someone who wants to become threatening and even lethal in side control, even against upper rank belts with a better understanding, a deeper understanding, and maybe a pretty cool choke that I can show you, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Now, once you've passed guard and you're into side control, you are in an offensive position. And offense can look like a bunch of different things. Those things are your goals or the objective of side control. So offense being pinning your opponent down and draining his energy while you regain yours, or moving into more dominant positions and finding submissions from maybe mount, or just hitting submissions right where you're at. All of it is offense, and all of that is the point of side control. Now, as we move into part two, the how, we need to understand the very basics, the fundamentals of what you're doing in side control, so this position can work for you against someone who knows what they're doing. First off, we're gonna talk about blocking the hip, utilizing chest pressure, and then following our opponent because they will be moving around. As you can see in this example, I am blocking my opponent's hip with my knee. If I keep my knee tied to my opponent's hip, it's very hard for him to regain his guard. And that is something he is going to be trying to do if he knows what he's doing. He's going to be trying to regain his guard at all times. Another way to block the hip, as the example shows, is utilizing my hand or the blade of my wrist down under his hip. So essentially I'm placing my hand just under his glute and letting my wrist block his hip. Now again, as you can see, if my wrist is right there, it's very difficult for him to regain his guard, which he will most likely be trying to do. We are blocking the hip. We are gaining control of the hips. We are stopping him from being able to do what he wants. And this is so important. If I don't block that hip, everything else I'm doing in side control means nothing, because he's just gonna get his guard back. So the hip block is crucial. To crush in on your opponent, you are wasting energy. You can just let your body weight do what it wants to do. Let gravity push you into him and him into the floor. So you'll notice as I'm also blocking his hip, I'm utilizing good chest pressure, okay? This is something that is necessary, especially because this opponent on bottom will be trying to put in frames, all right? The frames make your life uncomfortable on top, as they should. And when I talk about escaping side control from the bottom, frames are necessary. So when you're on top, expect the frames. Let your body weight do the work for you. Another thing that I talk about when I teach my students to escape side control is to move themselves away from their opponent. You have to remember, it doesn't make much sense to try to move another person's body when you have full autonomous control over your own. So I always tell my students who are on bottom to move your body away and then swing your knee in to get the guard recovery. So for you guys who are on top, you have to stay attached to his hip because you know what he wants. You not only have to stay connected to your training partner or your opponents, but you need to follow them. If my opponent walks his hips away from me and I stay where I'm at, he's probably gonna get his guard back. But if my opponent walks his hips away from me and I stay attached with either my wrist or my knee to his hip, it's gonna be very difficult for him to get his guard back. Something I always see new guys doing is when they're on top, they don't follow their opponent. And that's why it's usually so easy to get your guard back when you're rolling against white belts. That's not a knock on white belts, it's just something that most people do. So if you find yourself doing that, not following your opponent, that's one way to step your game up right now that will transform your dominance in side control. And the last thing you need to pay attention to is weight displacement, more specifically, overcommitting your weight to the far side. So as you can see here, if I sit my chest too far forward, all of my weight is forward, and it's very easy for him to roll me or sweep me in that direction, which is what we don't want. I want to at the very least be center, but even more so, a bit closer to the inside. To give you a landmark, I want my chest to be closer to his inside nipple than his outside nipple. If I'm closer to the inside, I'm very safe from being rolled. If I'm closer to the outside, it's roll city, and I'm probably not going to be able to keep that position. Now, one thing to be aware of is that more advanced grapplers will bait you into overcommitting to one side or the other. One technique that you could be aware of is that if you're using good side control pressure with an advanced grappler, that advanced grappler will bridge into you to get you to push them back flat. And as you force your weight back into them, that creates an opportunity for them to continue you in that direction and roll you off. So the necessity for you to be in the proper position is so great if you want to maintain that side control. You can't overcommit. You have to be aware that you can be baited into overcommitting. It's just something that you'll notice as you grow, and then it's probably something that you'll be able to use yourself as you grow, which is always fun. And I just want to take a second to give my sponsor, X Martial, a shout out. On the mats, you've got seconds to react, and sometimes even less. You train for hours to move with precision. Your gear should keep up. X Martial makes high quality, high performance no-gi gear. The fit is clean and the material, durable, breathable, and built for battle. One thing I can't stand about certain no-gi brands is how quickly the material falls apart and how quickly the designs wash away. Literally every single one of my rash guards that I own from X Martial has stood the test of time. I've been training jiu-jitsu for 9 years and I still have rash guards that look brand new. And since we're talking about the designs, they're original, they're unique, they help you look good. If you're gonna go compete and you don't feel you look your best, you think that's helping you in your performance, you wanna go out and feel good about the person that you've built. And no-gi attire definitely helps with that. So if you want to look as good as me and probably even better, get over to xmartial.com and grab yourself some gear. I know you'd be happy you did. Look good, feel sharp, roll hard. Let's get back to the video. And lastly, as promised, let's cover a submission that I really love called the 3-finger choke. This is pretty brutal. It is a choke if you do it correctly. It's very similar to a baseball bat choke, but without the roll through. It almost reminds me of like a paper cutter choke mixed with a baseball bat choke. So if you like those, you're gonna love this. If you don't know what those are, you're still gonna like this because it's awesome. So as we check the example, you see that I'm set up in side control. Now I need to learn the 3-finger grip first. To make this easy, I want you to consider my right hand, the one that goes past his face, the one that's on top, is the key. The key has to go into a lock, right? So my bottom hand that Scarf holds under his neck is considered the lock. And as you can see here, I'm passing my thumb in between my index finger and my middle finger to create that 3-finger grip. The reason this is important is because any other grip you do, it's gonna be a little bit harder to close your elbows, and that's gonna be an important piece to this. The 3-finger grip gives you an extra 1/4 to 1/2 inch of closing space when you set this choke up. So as you can see, I'm set up in side control. My north side hand goes underneath my opponent's head so that his head or the back of his neck is resting on my forearm. My right hand, or my top hand, my south side hand, passes underneath his frame. I travel up his sternum and I lock and I insert my thumb of my right hand in between the index finger and the middle finger of my left hand. So the key goes into the lock. Now I clamp the grip. I then place my forearm vertically across his chest. Now this gives me 2 advantages here. Not only does this allow me to put a lot of pressure through my own frame into his chest, making it hard to breathe, which also allows me to push my body weight up so that I can step wide with my north side foot, in this case, my left foot. Now, once I've stepped wide, my forearm that's on his sternum slips horizontally so that my elbow slides over top of his inside trap. In doing so, I'm getting my forearm across the front of his neck. Now, while keeping a tight grip with my hands, I push off my left foot so that I can push his head forward and push my arm that's in his neck into his throat. Now, as I move my posted elbow up over his trap, I almost bounce my weight into him so that I can bounce my elbow up over. I'm not necessarily grinding my elbow up his chest. I'm almost bouncing into that position because it's quick. Also keep in mind that I'm not spending a lot of time pushing down on his sternum. This is a transitional piece. So I have to do this quickly, okay? We're not hanging out here. So once I'm posted and I'm stepped wide, I slingshot or pop that elbow across his chest up over his trap, keeping a tight grip on my 3-finger grip. I push off my left foot, which helps me rotate his head forward, trapping my arm under his chin while the arm that's underneath his chin pushes further into his neck. Not only when done right is this a blood choke, it's a nasty air choke too. So you want to be careful with this one, but it's so easy. It's so easy to do. And if you practice good common sense and good courtesy with your training partners, because remember, your training partners are your teammates, you're there to help each other grow. You don't need to do this one 100% to get the tap. You're in a tournament or a self-defense scenario, yeah, a full send. but you're with your buddies in your local gym, training, be good to each other, right? Talk to each other, maybe do it light at first so they can see what it feels like. And for all the people out there who say chokes like this are too aggressive, it's still good to have awareness, because even if you aren't gonna use it, someone else is learning it right now. Someone else is learning it with the intention to use it at their next tournament. So if you decide this choke isn't for you, I respect it, I love it. We all have our own style and preferences, but it's still good to have the exposure, because the first time you deal with a certain submission, you don't want it to be in a tournament. You're probably not gonna know what to do, right? So at least take it as exposure. If you don't like it, I understand it's an aggressive choke. Take it for what you will. Either it's exposure, it's knowledge, or it's a tool for your tool belt. With that, if you guys have any comments on this one, or you have any suggestions from side control, other submissions that you guys love to use, by all means, drop them in the comments. And keep in mind, this is just one perspective, mine. From the 10 years of training I've gathered, my way is not the only way. I love when you guys drop your knowledge. Also keep in mind, I may use your comment for a video, so don't hesitate to comment, because I'm always reading through those, guys. You know how we like to end them, sometimes backwards, always forwards. I'll see you in the next one.